Welcome to Mental Metal Coaching, where our mission is to help you learn to thrive in the face of adversity, not just survive it. We are passionate about empowering you to live, play, and work with a resilient and spirited mindset. Hi, I'm Matt Thomann. I'm an ICF professional coach and keynote speaker. My background as an athlete, basketball coach, teacher, and school administrator has equipped me with the insights that resonate deeply with the schools, teams, athletes, and coaches I work with. However, it's my personal journey through anxiety, cancer, and an ischemic stroke in 2020 that truly brings authenticity to my presentations. While learning to speak and write again, I also pursued and earned my ICF coaching certification. Now the practices I embrace are more than theoretical concepts. They're a way of life. Developing a positive mindset is within reach for all, but it requires self-awareness and the repetition of intentional activities. At Mental Metal Coaching, we'll guide you, your staff, and your students on this transformative journey. Together, let's forge your metal. This is the Mental Metal Podcast, where we explore how to forge mental toughness and resilience in every aspect of life. Welcome, I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm an ICF certified professional coach with a background as a teacher, basketball coach, and athletic director. But my journey took a dramatic turn in 2020 when I survived both cancer and a stroke. Those experiences shaped my mission to help others grow stronger in every facet of life. Today, I work with athletes, coaches, educators, and anyone who believes that positive mental health is both achievable and a personal responsibility. This podcast is dedicated to helping listeners develop a positive version of toughness, one rooted in resilience, focus, and growth. Whether you're looking to excel on the field, in the classroom, or in life, this is your space to learn, grow, and take action. Join me on this journey, and together, let's forge your metal. All right, here we go. It's the Mental Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and my second-time guest here, Megan Gilmore. The second time I've had you on the show, and thank you. I don't even remember, I'm going to throw out a number, episode 38. I don't know if that's right or not.
Yeah.
I think so. I think there was something in there. I don't know why I remember that one. We talked a lot about just how stress and overactive fight or flight sympathetic nervous system and how that affects telomeres, and got into some geeky stuff with science and things like that. But that's a really good episode. If anybody wants to talk about, go check that one out. It's a really good one. But today I'm gonna preface today's. Well, let me introduce you. We'll get that. I don't want to assume that anybody, but Megan Gilmore, what would you say?
I'm the founder and executive director.
I know that. I just couldn't get it out.
Yeah.
Of Larksong. Give me your. This will be fun. You'll enjoy that. Give me your 30 to 60 second pitch. What Larksong is for people.
Yeah.
That don't know.
Larksong is an educational nonprofit. And we love courageously co-creating a more fulfilled and flourishing world through well-being education programs, professional certified coach training, and what we call culture care, which is just boldly partnering with collective groups of people to start initiatives to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. So probably recently, one of my favorite things was has been just coaching with a teenager and their mom around some obstacles that they've been facing at school, and seeing them grow in self-confidence and communication and just comfort within, like, perceiving their own self positively. That then gives them more choices when they come up against hard things. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And so it's from as simple as that to, and I've helped you with some places like getting in with like boards of you know what I mean? So it's everything from that level up to helping a board of a organization change what their vision is.
So your listeners might want to know that, like, we've partnered with teams at YouTube and children's hospitals and larger hospitals and large corporations, international corporations, to help their teams develop and grow and be better
Exactly. And I know Larksong because that's where I got my coaching certification. Now I'm
Mhm.
on the board there. I'm well aware of this, but that I don't, a lot of people don't, and especially the people checking into it, the podcast today. The question I want to center our conversation around today is a question I get asked quite a bit because I do a lot of my stuff, as you know, a lot of my stuff with athletes, and athletes tend to be younger people, so high school, junior high,
Yeah.
even some college, things like that. But a question I get all the time is it's phrased in different ways, but it's somewhere like this. They say, well, how young does this stuff work on kids? Like what's
Yeah.
too young, or what's how young could I start?
Yeah.
And my response is always like, well, they have a brain, don't they? Like it's
Right.
like this what this is doing, and not only that is the idea that, well, I'd rather just teach good habits rather than have to break old habits first, and the younger you are, the less habits we have to break.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
what's your response to that when somebody asks, well, when can I start doing this coaching or working on positive psychology?
Yeah, I my first response is something like as soon as they're in the womb, honestly, because there's so much research that goes to like how a mother's health and psychological well-being impacts the baby as it's even growing in the womb. So, but I would say, when do you start thinking about your child's physical health?
Right.
Is it when they're 25 and they've fully developed? Is it when, they reach their maximum height and have been through puberty? Is it when, like when do you teach them to start brushing their teeth so that they have good oral hygiene? When
Yeah.
they have teeth. Like,
When
I mean,
it's
like, so
it
yeah, so it's as soon as you can. And something else that I think is really interesting is being in this field and industry so much, that's where the greatest need is too. So I'm colleagues with some of the most incredible researchers and practitioners in this field all over the world. And the more I talk with them, the probably in 2018, when I was kind of invited into this network of international positive educators, I went and asked them for curriculum for elementary education, and they were like, "We don't have that."
no.
I said, "Excuse me, what? What do you mean you don't have that?" They said, "No, that we've got middle school is as young as we've been able to develop it, and it's really only for after school, middle school. They didn't really have anything for parents. They didn't really have." So in the last 7 to 8 years, there have been a lot of apps that have been developed, a lot of parenting resources that have been developed. There's been a lot of focus on social emotional learning in schools and funding for that, um, in elementary, focusing on elementary ages. And so all of the research is saying start earlier, start earlier, start earlier, start earlier. So the earliest that we start at Larksong is preschool and
Yeah.
have a curriculum for uh, students and educators for preschools.
Well, and to do a callback on again that last time we talked is you talked about what's really interesting about this. You said, well, it's as early as in the womb, but it's even before that because we get into that thing with the telomeres and things like that, how it becomes like how
Yeah,
much
we like getting nerdy about it.
well again like the mental health of a grandmother has a huge impact on her offspring like
Right.
decades before it's so it's like there is no there's no starting spot because it should never end. It should just always be um well, and that's a good point, and that's not where I was going to go today, but it's like it's why it's so important for as a person, you know, that might want to have kids. It's why your mental health is so important too because it's affecting become from conception,
Yeah.
like a child's mental health. And that's what I don't think people get how serious that is.
No, no, I don't think they do either. And there's like the biological, physiological side of
Right.
that. There's also like if you haven't developed the competencies and skills to manage your own emotions, stress, mental health, then the type of environment that you bring a child into is going to be traumatic and adverse and unsafe for them. And
Yeah.
so no parent wants that for their kid. No parent does, but
Right.
it's a skill. And just like any other skill that you would develop, there takes practice. So we teach
Hmm.
them to start practicing really young.
Yeah. And another thing you said when you were talking about like we start a child's physical health like from the beginning,
Right.
like again before the beginning, because we're
Yep.
doing these wellness checks and ultrasounds and doing all those things,
Yeah.
but we don't necessarily do it with mental health. And that is, it comes to it's kind of it's a frustration I have in the sense that we even have the term mental health, because the term mental health somehow implies that it's separate from physical health, which it absolutely is not. They're
No.
so connected. You can't separate the two, yet we do, which is it's a disservice to mental health.
Right. Yeah. Something that I like to do is think about it more like a specialty. So just like you'd have an endocrinologist or a
Yes,
cardiologist or something like that, that's not socially how people think about it. They
not at
think
all.
about mental health as like a luxury or an afterthought, or even there's stigma around like strong people don't need care for their mental health, or um, men don't need care for their mental
Yeah.
health, or just lots of different things. And but yeah, I think if we can think about it more like psychological health, mental emotional health is a specialization, um like optometry or dentistry or
Yeah.
cardiology, then that opens it up a bit more, I think.
Well, that would be great, but
Yeah.
and I think that maybe we're moving that direction, but it's a slow
Right.
process.
Yeah, I think
Definitely a slow process.
people are realizing the importance of it more, but they don't necessarily know what to do with it, and they don't trust practitioners or information around it.
Well, that's fair, because I think that there's been some, I don't want to say bad practitioners, but
Yeah,
there's been,
there has been though.
just like there's a wrong way to do some things on all sorts of physical health. There's
Right.
wrong ways to do this, and it does become a stigma as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I want to bring this up. You're also an author, right?
Oh
So
yes.
yeah, because
Yeah.
this is very tied in to what we're talking about today. You even wrote a book. What is the age group? Would you? Well, this is probably a book that like parents would read to their kids as much as anything else, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a children's book
Hmm.
that's
It's
about
rhymey and fun. Yeah.
that's rhymey and fun, and it's all the things, but
Hmm.
it's about the brain and
Yeah.
understanding the parts of your brain. Tell me about the book and your inspiration for it, because it's similar to what we're talking about now.
Yeah, so the inspiration for it came in around 2018 when I was building a curriculum for kids, and I just loved the thought of personifying different areas of the brain to make it more fun for kids to learn about. And since the different areas kind of have different jobs,
Hmm.
it's like they have different personalities or unique characteristics. And so I worked with an amazing illustrator. I said, okay, so the amygdala is kind of almond shaped. Can we make Amy kind of like teardrop shaped, and then Thal is kind of amorphous. Can we make him a little chubby? And can we do and Belle, like the cerebellum is all about movement, and I want to do it like give a nod to empowering Black female bodies and body autonomy and sovereignty for Black women. And so we made this lovely girl with a afro that looked like the cerebellum, and she was a
And she was
dancer.
like a ballerina too, right?
Yeah, she's a
Yeah,
dancer. Yeah.
yeah.
And then um and then there's Neo, who's the whole neocortex, and um yeah, he's cool.
Yeah.
And Hip is, he looks a bit older, and he's got some native indigenous nods, and he's about memory, and
Hmm.
so he's a bit lankier. And so anyway, there was a lot of intentionality that even went into the illustrations to um thematically, or from the space of like an archetype, think about what kind of person or character might represent this area of the brain. But we really focus on Amy G. Dalla, the
Right.
amygdala,
Yeah.
and what her job is, why she needs her friends, and what the answer is for her when she's feeling too many emotions all at once and needs to kind of return back to a safe home within herself. And it's her breath. So we lead whoever's reading the book through some breathing and affirm who they are by the end. And yeah, so that's a little bit about it. And then at the end of the book, there's a big what do you call it? Like a spread that
Yeah.
shows the different characters, what region of the brain they represent, talk a little bit about that region of the brain. So there's some educational pieces in there for more advanced readers. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the book because it does, and this is not a surprise because you and I think a lot the same on a lot of things. So the fact that
Mm,
you wrote, as I read that book, I know what you're trying to do and I get it because it's whimsical and it's fun, but it's also a teaching tool
yeah.
that gives you some recognition, but then it also gives you a tool to repeat,
Exactly.
which,
So
and
it
I think,
introduces education and practice, right? Like
yeah, which
hopefully
is
we're learning something and we're doing something new because of what we learned. Yeah.
that speaks to me. That's everything that I do when I go places. It's like, we're going to do some recognition,
Yeah.
but we're like, if we just have the recognition today,
Hmm.
that's going to fade. That's not going to do anything. You might actually feel worse for recognizing me because you don't, you know
That's
what I'm
so
saying? Like,
true. Yeah.
because you don't have a tool to like deal with it.
Exactly.
And
There's no
so,
agency around the recognition, no choices, right? And so then thanks so much.
yeah,
I'm
I
now aware.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I just know that that's my amygdala acting up and causing all this, but I don't know what to do about it. But this
exactly.
gives you the tool. And that's, I think everything that I do, I use this analogy a lot when I'm working with parents and the athletes that I work with. We're filling a toolbox that
Hmm.
gives you tools to do something and work to get better. Right. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. And so, can I speak for a minute on that? Because I think I was
absolutely.
just challenged by one of our other coaches in a really kind, inviting way this morning. They were asking, how can we share about superhero camp and what data points do you have around that? I was like, I am so bad about sharing data points because I'm just like, I know it works. I've done the research, but
I have that same issue too, right? It's because, but
other
yeah,
people need to know,
yeah, they
right?
do.
It might be their first time. Um, so anyway, a lot of folks have heard about adverse childhood experiences. Those have been ACEs, right? Those have been
Aces.
around a long time. Educators, coaches, parents. If you haven't heard about them, just do a quick Google search and look it
Educate
up.
yourself quick.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have you can take an assessment yourself. It might add to a lot of awareness around like specific struggles that you might have that are enduring from your childhood. But there are specific traumatic adverse childhood experiences that are pretty popular, or like they happen to a lot of people and they have a lifelong impact.
Hmm.
But then there's also PACEs, which are these protective factors against adverse childhood
Hmm.
experiences. And what we know now, because people are like, well, how do we mitigate the harm or the damage from these adverse childhood experiences earlier than when I'm having a heart attack about it, or
Right.
earlier than and so there's been a lot of work done by the United Nations. There's been a lot of work done by the World Health Organization, by the CDC, by the National Institute of Health around these protective factors and figuring out which ones actually make the biggest difference. And so positive perception of yourself, the obviously the presence of a loving and supportive adult, just one loving supportive adult that a kid can count on to accept them without judgment and unconditionally makes a huge difference. And sometimes that's a parent, but sometimes it's not. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's not. And most of us could point to who those 1 to 3 adults were in our lives as kids, right? And but then you also have self-regulation skills and connection to positive social environments and stress management, emotional awareness, those sorts of things all start to give children um, the ability to overcome traumatic and adverse life experiences. So, just like when we're brushing our teeth, we're helping prevent cavities and like dental disease, right? These protective factors are actually helping children become more skillful and competent at navigating the hardest things in their lives so that they don't become permanently harmful.
Right.
So, what we know now is that kids that have well being education are more successful academically. They persist to graduation more than children that don't, which makes sense.
Your athlete probably spends hours working on the specific skill set they need for their sport, and they probably spend hours in the weight room building their body. But how much time do they spend intentionally training their mind? Well, building mindset is the key to bridging the gap between the skills that we see and game execution. Well, Mental Metal Coaching provides individual programs that can help your athlete develop this third and crucial skill set.
So, some of the statistics or data points around protective factors that I think matter to people are that when we give children access to well-being education, it increases their academic performance. It also decreases violence by 20%, depending on the age and gender. And then we increase psychological well-being, which is this ability, right, to endure adverse or traumatic situations, buffer against things that are difficult or challenging in their lives. We increase that by 40% in kids, which matters.
Because it's like the adversity, the childhood adversity is not the end of adversity.
Exactly. Yeah, but
So
how a child is equipped to respond to that adversity makes a huge difference in how they continue to respond to it as an adult and as like a team member in the workplace and as a parent, so many different things that then starts really impacting our collective society and how we move about the world together.
well, and when you're talking about this when you talk about this collective society and you're talking about the data points and things like this, we're talking about long-term answers, right? And that's the
Yeah.
thing. So it's kind of like the physical. We go back to that physical thing. It's like it's pretty much, not pretty much, it's known. Like if you have a kid and you give them a healthy diet, rounded, well
Yep.
balanced diet from birth on, they're going to have less. They're going to be less susceptible to health issues as an adult, right? So
Right.
we don't always do the best job of it, but we know why we should do that, why we shouldn't, things like that. What we're trying to do. So my point is the data points, it takes years and decades for these data points to be compiled, understood, and then those, those practices to filter down. We're
Mm-hmm.
in the early stages of this for well-being education, in the sense that people don't necessarily understand it. They don't get it. It's not well known. And I feel like that's probably the struggle right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that people do realize the importance of it and they see the impact when it's not there. But to a lot of folks, Dr. Daniel Amen uses the phrase shooting darts in the dark. I think to a lot
Mm-hmm.
of folks, it feels like I'm just shooting darts in the dark around psychological well being and mental health and social emotional learning. I'm shooting darts in the dark hoping that something sticks, so totally like quantity as much as I can do.
Yeah.
But then they get burnt out and they don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. They're not able to see the impact of it because it's not practiced regularly. And so, yeah, something that we do, I think, pretty well is focus on, hey, here are the things that really work. Here are the things that let's teach you about the things that really work and give you the opportunity to practice that in a way that works for you. And then we're shooting darts at an actual target, you know what I mean? And becoming more
Right.
and more skilled at hopefully hitting close to the bullseye. Yeah.
Well, but that speaks into the consistency of it as well, because again, if we would go to the physical and we would say, well, how often do you think, do we know how often a child should exercise? And people would understand that, like, oh, this needs to be like, you
Like
really need
every
to
day.
do this every day.
Right.
It's an everyday thing. Well, some of these mental tools that we need to do, they're not like a once in a while check the box type thing. It needs to be something you do every day. And if it's
Right.
not something you do as a habit, it needs to be something you build into your schedule until it becomes a habit. Same as
Exactly.
exercise.
Yeah.
And we're just not there yet on mental well-being for any age.
Yeah. Yeah. The people that are there though are like, I don't know, they're some of the biggest fanatics about it because they
Oh,
realize
I didn't say not.
the
I'm not saying
impact.
not
You know what I mean?
everybody's
But
there,
as
but
a
it's
society,
not.
yeah,
It's not. Yeah, as a
yeah,
society, we're not there.
yeah. But because and
Yeah.
it's so important that we start to practice these things in relationship with each other too, because just like anything else that's going to impact our like aliveness and thriving, we're not going to know everything, and we're not responsible to knowing everything, but we can share resources and tools with each other just
Hmm.
like we would for anything else. Like, hey, I found this deal on berries at Meyer. I found
Yeah.
this deal at Meyer. You might want to go get 5 quarts. I know your kid likes berries, but they don't like other things with fiber in it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that, we do stuff like that all the time. It doesn't feel like judgment. It doesn't feel unhelpful. It doesn't feel like somebody's trying to be arrogant and like say what they know better than what you know. And I think that's where I really hope we get with mental health and
Hmm.
psychological well-being sooner rather than later, that there's just this ease of flow of resources and support and accountability for each other in relationship, so that we could be like, hey, what meditation is really working for you lately? Do you like breath work? I hate breath work, but I do it
Yeah.
because
Right.
because I realize how much it helps. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the same. It's like I don't like eating this because it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't like eating this, but I know it's good for me. My doctor said it's the
Exactly.
same idea. It's like I don't. We don't have to have everything we do like it. We don't have to like everything we do, but we need to like. There's a lot of things we need to do, right? And I think that
Exactly.
not
But
to, and that yeah, we're not. I'm not putting the right emphasis on mental health because I think a lot of these things that you do, once you start doing it, you will actually start to enjoy it because you see the benefit.
exactly. But the same thing is true metaphorically with what you're saying. Like if I don't like broccoli, but I know, hey,
Yeah,
that's a vegetable that's going to be readily available. I learn how to prepare it so that it's
yeah,
tasty to me. Like I'll put
yeah.
lemon juice and garlic and some olive oil on it, and I like broccoli all of a sudden. And the same
Yeah.
is true for um well-being practices. You might be like, oh gosh, I really hated that visualization. That's fine. Go find one that you like, or an environment that you like to do
Yeah.
it in, or something else. Like adjust it so that it works for you. And we
Well,
teach how to do that too.
yeah, and I think but a lot of these things are going to feel awkward and strange to anyone of any
Mm,
age the first couple times you do it, and you do have to get past
yeah,
that. Just like you're
exactly.
probably if you haven't been running or you haven't been walking, you haven't been moving much, the first time you do it, you're probably going to get sore. Like you're just not, you know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
But
Or
you get used to it.
when your personal trainer adds in something new and you're like, what is this
Yeah.
even work? This is so straight
Yeah.
clamshell like that for me. I'm like, what is this even doing? And then the next day you're like, I didn't even know there was a muscle there. I didn't even know.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's the same kind of deal.
Yeah.
So let's transition all of this talk and all of this need and all this understanding and quite honestly this passion, and give me the rundown on how and why you started Little Lark's superhero camp.
Yeah, so we started Superhero Camp honestly because we had done this huge international initiative around global education, and people were like, "What about us in our in our hometown?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, okay." We should probably focus on where our kids are and where our kids are going, and not. So we moved from a really global perspective to a local perspective, and thought, how can we make the biggest impact in the most like concentrated amount of time, um, to kids in the And honestly, Matt, when we first started it, I I thought, how can this be a really cool day camp experience where for 5 days children are like safe and accepted and they learn things about stress and emotions and their brains and limiting beliefs, which we call mind bandits at superhero camp. How
Mhm.
can we ask them questions that help them realize where their bravery is and like what they can do in their homes or in their schools to make a difference? Um, but I thought that would be it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just
Yeah.
like when I went to summer camp, it was really fun. But if I went in June and you asked me what I learned in August, I probably couldn't tell you much, right? I could, and that's not how superhero camp is. What we found, this will be our 10th camp this year. And what we found is the kids that go through superhero camp, it's sticky. Like they learn
Yeah.
it and do it, and they teach their friends and they teach their teachers and they teach their parents. um, it's incredible. So anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself in terms of the impact, but yeah, that's why we
Yeah.
started it. And we focused on what are kind of the most essential elements when it comes to well-being education and life purpose literacy and instilling these protective factors in children. And if nothing else, can we model for them what a world might be like for 5 days that treats them as full human beings and trusts in their agency and tells them about their strengths and teaches them how to overcome problems and challenges together. What if we could even just like model and show them a vision of that for 5 days? How might that expand their imaginations for what might be possible in the world? And so that's how we started there. So if you want to imagine with me what superhero camp is like, there's about 60 children ages 5 to 10 that come to a park with these incredible gardens, an incredible playground, and a river, like river running through this little valley. And there's a garden house that we do our superhero training in. They're in 5 different color teams, mostly based on age. So we've got some youngins on the purple team that are 5 to 6.
Right.
And then our oldest ones are on the red team, and they're 9 and 10-year-olds. Each team now has junior leaders. So the junior leaders are old campers. They're like retired campers that wanted to come back and help. And they are one of the
And
greatest joys.
the importance of that, the importance of right there can't be you can't underestimate that. Like that is just seeing the former campers turn into the junior leaders and how much they do for the camp is I mean there's still
Insane.
plenty to do.
Incredible.
There's still so much to do for the adults, but
Yeah.
these still kids are doing so much of it and it's
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's more helpful, but it sometimes it is, right? When
It is.
somebody's
They
that's
can
closer
see
to your age.
themselves. Right. They can see themselves in the teenagers more
Right.
readily than they see themselves in the adults.
Absolutely.
And so when a teenager
Absolutely.
that you think is like cooler, so cool, whatever,
Yeah.
responds to your crying or breakdown or strength or creativity in an accepting and affirming and like directing way. Um, yeah, I mean, that's just incredible. Yeah, so they've got the junior leaders on
Yeah.
every team. We also have team leaders. All of our team leaders are certified coaches. And so that makes a huge difference in how they approach the children, the campers, and kind of the modality that we come to from that. There's not a lot of like directing types of instruction, like here are all the rules or whatever. There's a lot of coaching and learning through
Right.
inquiry and that kind of thing. And then we have community volunteers that are adults that assist each team. So there's a large like it's like a one leader to every 3 to 4 children ratio, which is incredible. So each child gets a lot of individual support. So they come in, we do superhero training, we teach them the rules. This is something I think parents should know that I learned a long time ago. Try to make as few rules as possible for children.
Mm-hmm.
as few as possible. If it's going to be on more than like the fingers on your hand, that's too many rules. They are not going to remember
It's too
them,
much.
and neither are you. You're just going to make up rules based on your own stress responses and your own like ideas of what you deserve as a parent, you know? So
Right.
the rules that we have at Superhero Camp are listen well, use your words, and be kind and loving. And if you can't use your
Mm-hmm.
words, then you tell us. Like, you come to us, we ask you can you use your words. If you can't, then we help you. You know, there are no bad kids at Superhero Camp. There are just some problems that come up for everybody, and so we teach the everyone there that they are all creative, unique, worthy, capable, and ready. And so if problems come up or issues come up with a particular child, we ask, you know, what the problem is, and we say, you know, we think we're capable of solving this together, let's try again, you know.
Yeah.
um
There is.
yeah.
I'm going to interject here. There's a. Gosh, I used to be a public school administrator, and I would do
Hmm.
evaluations of elementary teachers, and
Teachers, yeah.
they're wonderful people. I
Yeah.
love them, and then they're doing the Lord's work, and I mean
Exactly.
that in so much.
Yeah.
But there are sometimes problems with a child that are almost expected, in the sense that if you go into it in a, teachers have a habit of, you talk to the teacher from the year before, like, who's the problem kid, and who's going to act like this, and who's
Hmm.
going to do like this, and then you have this preconceived notion about how a kid's going to act, and then lo and behold, he acts that way or she acts that way. And that's one of my favorite parts about the Larks. Like, we have the same positive assumptions about these kids, every kid, and it's
Everything.
like, if every kid, and
Yeah.
there's no exceptions. And when you go into that and tell them, this is how you are, this is what you are, and this is what you're capable of, it's amazing how some of these past actions and past ways that they
Yeah.
behave are much less of an issue.
Exactly. I've got so many
Yeah.
stories, like so many stories about that.
Yeah.
We, you know, we had this one kiddo. He came to Superhero Camp 2 years ago, and he would have been, by anybody else's, you know, definition, one of the problem kids or the
Hmm.
bad, right? He was like, he could run so fast, Matt. Like, he was
Hmm.
so strong and so fast. And he came to Superhero Camp, and we did have some problems come up with this particular camper. And so they bring those campers to me that need a little bit more attention and a little bit
Yeah.
more like working through. And so that's what he got. He got attention and working through. And we taught like how repair works when you make a mistake, you know, and that everybody, there's all these perspectives, right? So anyway, the difference in him from day 1 to day 5, transformative. But then the difference in him
Hmm.
from year 1 to year 2, how he behaved
Yeah.
in his home, in his school, what he was able to do, that he was like, even how he was able to spiritually be in relationship with God and different things, was transformed because of Superhero Camp. And so the next year he was like required by the school to take summer school, and his mother advocated for him to do Superhero
Yeah.
Camp instead of summer school. And the teachers said, okay, that's fine, but he still has to test, right? Like, we still need him to test. So this kiddo, he went to Superhero Camp, and then he went home and studied, and he put on his red team shirt to go in and take his
Yeah.
test, and told himself the declarations before he went in. And his mom took a picture of him and texted it to me and just said, you know, thank you so much for your work. It means everything for my kid, you know. And yeah, it's just like, okay, we'll keep doing it. We'll keep doing it then,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. No.
um
Mm, yeah. I love so much of it. I want to talk about one specific type. There's a lot of things you do, the declarations and things like that. But
yeah.
you mentioned the mind bandits, and I want you to just, for people, not just what you do with the kids, but how does that connect with? I mean, you took that from an idea of limiting beliefs that psychologists and coaches will work with adults,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
turned it into something for kids. I just want
Yeah.
to talk about like what the Mind Bandits idea is, and relate that to what an adult listen to this podcast might be like. Oh, that's something I do, but you're helping kids deal with it
Yeah.
early on.
Exactly. Yeah. So the Mind Bandits came from my son, actually. He's 17 now, but when we started Superhero Camp, he was 9. And that year, as a team, Larksong had created a team saboteur. So, one way that we talk about limiting beliefs as coaches is through language like a saboteur or a gremlin or an imposter that kind of shows up. So, a lot of people have heard of imposter syndrome, that kind of thing. So, this internal self chatter that's like, I'm not enough, I'm too much, who do you think you are? It's usually based in shame, and ways of preserving ourselves when we were kids that no longer work for us as adults. And so everyone has them. You're not a worse person because you have them.
Yeah.
There's a really good YouTube series by Laurie Santos on cognitive biases. This is another term for limiting beliefs that anyone can look up and access. I encourage you to do that if you're interested in more of it, to the listeners. But we created an artistic representation of our team saboteur, put it on the wall. Her name was Mute Medusa the Dealer. So you can imagine she looked a little daunting. She was as big as a couple posters on that wall. And our team task through the year was to put post-it notes up on her anytime we did something or accomplished something that kind of flew in the face of the lies or limiting beliefs that she told us. Well, my son, being 8 or 9 years old at the time, walked in, saw this representation of our saboteur on the office wall and was like, what is that? That's disturbing. So I had the opportunity to tell him about saboteurs, limiting beliefs, and he was like, okay, that's great. I probably won't spend time in that room. I said, that's totally fine, buddy. I said, do you feel like you have any saboteurs? And he goes, I don't know if that word really works for me, but I have things like mind bandits. And I said, oh my gosh, that's so perfect.
I'm taking that.
Exactly. Do you mind if I use that with kids? He's like, oh no, that's fine. So we try to give Elliot credit anytime, we're explaining it. But we said it's kind of like there's not just one, there's multiple mind bandits that attack these different truths about you. So we call them the Mind Bandit Gang. There's Failing Francine, who tells you that you're not creative enough to figure this out. You're going to fail no matter what. Plain Polly says there's nothing special about you. You're not unique. No Love Lenny says, you got to try really hard. You got to earn love. You're not worthy of love just because of who you are. You got to earn it. And Can't Do It Cam says, this problem's too hard for you. You're not going to figure it out. Can't do it. And then there's Lazy Lars, who's like, just lay down in the dark. You're not ready. Don't even try, So we have these mind bandits that are now coloring sheets. They're in our skits. We have a mind bandit song this year. And we actually, you can find that on our
Which
YouTube
is legit,
channel.
by the way. That song,
Yeah,
that song is really good.
Thank you. Yeah. Stephanie
Yeah.
Huff, who's a parent, she's one of our Larksong certified coaches, and her kiddos came to Superhero Camp last year. She says her family has been totally transformed by their engagement with Larksong, and she wanted to give back. She's a music therapist. She volunteered a couple days for Superhero Camp, and so she wrote 3 songs for the kids this year. They're awesome. Love them so much. Yeah,
they're great. Well, and there's so many things about that. What when you talk about those mind bandits, people listening are probably like, as you talk about like camp, like Polly and those names.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much for you to you listen to them, be like, oh, you're talking about kids. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. This is me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
most
exactly.
days, right?
And that's what all the
And
adult volunteers
I also
experience Superhero Camp
that's
too. They're all sitting
yeah.
there like, having realizations or crying in the middle of the skit, like, oh my gosh, that's me, or that was me when I was a kid, or man, I wish someone would have told me that when I was 8. But they're like, I'm telling it to myself now, and it's healing something in me, so
Yeah.
I don't think we've had a volunteer that's come and not been impacted themselves because of the way that they're able to be there together. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into the psychology of it too much, but there's so much powerful in the when you're creating those third person characters, like
Yeah.
psychologists are big in the third person in for not only for
Right.
your mind bandits, but for your superhero. 'Cause I do with that stuff with all the time that I work with individuals. I love that, and it seems so cheesy and corny, but it really helps to be. I think
Yeah.
it allows you to be less judgmental about the voices and those things,
Yeah.
and be like, it's just a thing. It's a thing, and I
Mhm.
can notice it, and I can deal with it better than me saying, oh, I'm a terrible person and I have a lot of issues, which is it that becomes
Exactly.
so me centered. Yeah.
Yeah, and it becomes a little hopeless too. I think that there's
Yes.
no
Yeah.
there's no growth mindset in that. And that, honestly, Matt, that's one of my biggest peeves in adults when they say, well, this is just me, take it or leave it. I'm like, really?
Yes.
Really? Are you happy with
I
that? Are you happy with that just being you? I'm not
yeah.
happy about that for you. And so those are usually my inside thoughts when people say stuff like that. But I'm like,
Well,
man, yeah,
that's not true. I know you better than that. You don't keep that inside. You
I
let
do
them
have some
know.
thoughts that
I've
slip
heard
out.
it. Um, yeah. No, but I think that when you talk about the difference between adults and kids, that's the beauty part of something like superhero camp and your book and things like that, is because when we work with a kid doing this positive psychology work and this coaching, we're working with the kid before it becomes so embedded in their personality that
Yeah.
we can actually we make a lot more progress, you know,
Hmm.
early on. There's less weeds to pull, or you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's easier to keep a
Yeah.
garden where it's supposed to be rather than go in and be like, oh, this is a mess.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we are really bad as adults at empathizing with what it must be like to be a
Hmm.
child. Um,
Right. Yeah.
like, okay, in a typical day, you get a parent or a guardian or caregiver gets me up. I have to then go through my day, whether I go to, school at public school or elsewhere, like I'm being told what to do, where to sit, what colors I can use to color,
Yeah.
how, um, how to stand in line to go to the bathroom, whether or not I can go and get a drink, like all of these different things, right? If someone were controlling me that much every day, if I had so little choices and so little agency over what I did with my life or how I experimented or practiced with making things better, that would be really difficult. So, the amount of self
Hmm.
control that a child demonstrates on a daily basis is incredible. The fact that they're not being disrespectful or like flying off the handle, that they're not all doing that across the entire world is incredible.
I know.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so I hold children in very high regard, and I haven't always. That's something that changed in me in my mid 20s. But yeah, I just think that
Hmm.
if we don't consider children as full humans that are worthy of the same rights and access that adults are, then we maybe need to start there too. Maybe need to start there. But one thing that
Yeah,
superhero camp gives
I do.
them is agency. It's like, okay, you
Yeah.
might be in a situation, an environment, a relationship where you don't feel like you have any choices. Here are the choices you do have about how you show up, how you manage your stress, how you talk to your emotions and your internal thoughts, and how you can interact with people in a way that's kind and loving, and still
Yeah.
use your words to tell the truth. So yeah.
Yeah. So I want to make sure we get this in, and you've said it, but Larksong and the superhero camp, it's Larksong is a nonprofit, which means
Yeah.
it's based on volunteers, donations, that is a
Sponsorships,
big
all
part
of
of
the
it.
above.
And all of the above. And know that, like, yes, superhero camp is, my audience is not necessarily overlapped with your geographic area, but you
Yeah.
run it in Marion County, Indiana.
Mhm.
But I'm still going to put it out there that if this is something that, as you listen to this, I mean, you'll take donations from anyone and
Oh yeah.
everyone wherever, because I think I have a, I'm a number 3 and I'm a dreamer and I see things, but I would love to see superhero camp go beyond what, some way,
Yeah.
shape or form, go beyond what Marion,
Yeah.
Indiana, because I'm not from
Yeah.
Marion, Indiana, and I'd like to see
Yeah.
it grow.
Exactly.
And that's why I support it. That's why I sponsor it and do that. So
Hmm.
in that, what can people do to help if they love this idea? How can they sponsor, donate, whatever?
Yeah, so they can go to our website, larksong.com/superhero camp has all the links and information. The three things that we need the most are volunteers. Even if you can be a remote volunteer that sends an encouragement to our leadership, that's huge. From afar, we need sponsors and donors. So sponsors would be folks that are folks, teams, companies that are looking to give over $100, and we tell you exactly where that money is going and what you're sponsoring, and then we send you some fun goodies to be partners with us in it. But then we also need donors, and we need financial donors as well as supply donors. So you'll find two links on our website, one to just donate money and one to an Amazon registry that lists all the supplies that we still need. So if you're like, I want to give something tangible, like I know that I'm sending all the yoga mats for the orange team, or all the blankets for the orange team. I had someone ask the other day, because we've been doing this for 10 years, they're like, don't you save the yoga mats? I said, absolutely not. The yoga mats go home with the kids. So we buy
Yeah,
the new supplies every year because the children go home at the end of the week with a well-being kit so that they can continue to
it's a
practice everything.
tangible thing that they're going to take. Yes, I
Yep.
don't, like,
Yeah.
you don't have to sell me, because then, like, oh, I can't do this because I don't have my yoga mat. Well, now, like, it takes
Yeah.
that away. Like, you have
Yeah.
this kit, and this is what I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
So when parents, get
Hmm.
on Instagram or Facebook or email me these pictures of their children wrapped up in their superhero camp blanket meditating, or, out in their yard with their yoga mat, and it's a mess, they've torn up the yoga mat, but they're sitting on the yoga mat
Yeah,
doing their thing. Yeah, it really warms my heart. Another thing that I wanted to mention is,
it's
if
awesome.
anyone that's listening is in education and they want to provide this kind of opportunity for their school, like children at their school, we've partnered now with a couple different school corporations to offer superhero camp as summer school programming. So we're doing that this year as
Hmm.
well. We've got a community-wide superhero camp the first week of June, and then we're doing the programming for summer school for Marion Community Schools the second week of June. And that has worked really, really well in the past too. One thing that was really cool was that um, our district leadership, the community school district, contacted me and said we had all our principals in one room. We were talking about summer school programming, and they said we need to get Larksong there. Figure out what week they figure out what week they can be there,
Yeah.
and I told the person asking me, I said, I appreciate that so much and that your teachers want to help so much, but I don't want them as color team leaders. I need my coaches
Hmm.
as color team leaders, and I would love for them to be assistants. And they said, that's exactly what we want to. We want you all to model for them what this could look like, what this kind of educational approach could
Yeah.
look like, so that it's also professional development for our teachers. And I was like, perfect. We're on the exact
Yeah.
same page. So that gives the teachers a
Well,
bit of relief too. Go ahead.
I think that there's, and I don't want to speak for you, but
Yeah.
I guess I'm on the board, so I can, and maybe this shouldn't be a conversation we're having on a podcast, but I think there's so much room for growth for Larksong to get in to do professional development with elementary and preschool teachers to
Mhm.
teach some of these concepts in a curriculum that they can use in their classrooms. And I
Yeah.
think that And you're kind of talking about that a little bit, but I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. That's something I would love to see.
Me
That that
too.
that I would think that would be awesome. Yeah,
We're also
yeah,
partnering with
yeah.
our local library. So the children's department
Okay,
in our library, we've been talking with them and are developing well-being kits so that skills coaches, counselors, parents can come into the public library, check out a well-being kit, and it's essentially like checking out a day of superhero camp that they can do at their own
yeah,
pace with the kid wherever they're at. So that's a possibility as well.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, last question I always ask. What did I not ask you that I should have? What did we miss? Anything?
I think I would just encourage any parents or teachers that are passionate about this work to just start it, not wait to be perfect at it or wait to feel like it's
Mm,
exactly the right time or they have all the resources, but just start it and trust that you'll be clunky and clumsy at first, and the kids will too. And if you can enter into it with a growth mindset and a willingness to
mm-hmm.
practice, that's where we need to start. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to be Matt or Megan. You don't need to be, you just, you just need to have a few resources and a willingness to learn. Yeah,
You will not make it worse.
exactly.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean? You're not going
So,
to make things worse. You're not.
yeah.
Because I think that's what some people think. Oh, I'm going to mess things up. You're not. You're coming at it from a good place. You're trying to do good. You're like, get some resources, practice some things. It's going to help, and you'll get better at it as you go. So
Yeah.
awesome, Megan. Thank you so much for coming on. I love these
Thank-
conversations, and I can't wait to hear how I want some updates with the.
Okay.
I know I can't make it this year, and that
Hey,
bothers me, but I want to see
update.
I want to see the updates.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. I'll send them.
All right, thanks, Megan.
Yep. Talk to you later.
If you are a parent of an athlete, I want you to hear this. You are already your kid's most powerful mental performance coach. It's not me. It's not their strength coach. It's not their varsity coach. It's you. The way you talk in the minivan, at the dinner table, and after games is literally wiring your athlete's brain for either confidence or anxiety. That is a lot of pressure and it's kind of daunting. And that's why I created my free email course called the Resilient Parents Playbook. In it, I walk you through the 5 most common mistakes we make as sports parents, and I give you simple, practical tools to fix them. You'll learn how to praise effort and attitude instead of just results, how to handle the car ride home, and how to help your kid manage nerves and pressure in a healthy way. It's completely free. Just hit the link in the show notes and grab the Resilient Parents Playbook and start becoming the kind of mental coach your athlete actually needs at home. So to sum it up, yes, you should be doing some well-being education and some mental strength training, something with your kid from day one. And that means, when I say that, I mean very intentional conversations about the mental health. And one of the things that is the detriment to mental health these days, and has always been, is the stigma around it. And if you can start to do this, not so much, what happens is when you start working with your kid at an early age, it just becomes, oh, this is something I'm going to do for my mental health, not something we decide to do once there's already an issue, or we start to talking about, there's some problems. We just say, no, this is something we're going to start doing because this is good for our mental health. And it becomes something that we notice before there's an issue and before it becomes a big deal. And then that will start to, I think, break down the stigma. And there is a big stigma around it. And and it's a lot of it's misunderstanding as well. Again, we have no issues taking a baby or a toddler to the pediatrician to get shots, to check up on their health, make sure they're eating the right things, make sure doing the right things, getting the exercise, all these things, and worried about their growth and development. We don't do much of that on the mental side of things. And we really should, because the more that we work on these things early when they're young, again, the less problems it's going to be down the long run. And that's, Megan is so good at that. We kind of mentioned it in the book. If you want to, or in the interview, if you want to get it, is her book there. And I'll put a link in the show notes, is Amy Dalla and the Answer. Again, great book to kind of like introduce some of the brain science to even a little kid, and understanding that some of the reasons our brain acts like it does is it's not a mystery. It's a lot of, and there's a lot of power in that, and understanding that, again, this isn't a mystery. This is just how our brain reacts in these situations. And ... here's how we kind of combat that, and here's how we deal with that. And that's a huge thing. That's a powerful thing. And Megan does that. She's got that book. That's why she does the superhero camp. And I'm telling you, I've worked it a couple years. I can't make it every year with my own things, but it's great. I also sponsor it because I believe in what they're trying to do. If you have any interest at all in supporting the camp, or maybe talking to Megan, if you're listening to this and you're an educator, or of elementary, preschool, and you're like, how do I do this? How do I start working this? Or if you're just a parent, I'll put Megan's links in there. She is fantastic, and you can really help you out. And what she's doing there at that camp, it's similar to, it's just an early on version of the stuff that I do with the athletes. I do my student athlete coaching. It's the same kind of an idea. And whenever we talk about parents figuring out, being part of that puzzle, not that puzzle really, but part of that equation on how to grow the mental toughness and the well-being in their children, and in my case, their athletes. That's why I created my Resilient Parents Playbook. Same kind of stuff. It's just giving you tools on how to talk to your kid in a way that builds up their confidence, their positivity, and gives them ways to kind of deal with some of that pressure that they're going to see. And that's the other thing, as Megan's doing this stuff for the superhero camp and working with kids today. And you might be like, well, I don't, nobody did that stuff with me when I was a kid, and I'm okay. And that's fair. But a lot of adults still struggle with this stuff, and it would have helped if they had it when they were young. And I think today's youth face a lot more pressures and a lot more opportunities to have some issues because of, let's just say it, social media is a big influence on people's mental health. And it shouldn't be, but it is. And it's a different world they're growing up in. They're going to face some of that, have some issues with that. And if they're not prepared for it, it can get out of hand. So I think that the more that you do this stuff ahead of time, the better they're going to be in the long run, and finding these positive reactions or positive tools to implement to kind of offset those ACEs, those adverse childhood events. It's just a great tool, and it's something you ought to be doing. So check the show notes for all the links with Larksong, and I'll put one in there for my Resilient Parents Playbook. It's finding the resources, and Megan talked about that. Is like, find the resource that works for you. You don't have to use our stuff, but find something you're going to use and try and use that. So, and that's what I would suggest. And if you want to donate to the camp, the links are in there to do that. And I know that Larksong is a phenomenal nonprofit. I really enjoy being on the board for that. So it's kind of why I did this episode, to kind of put this idea about working with positive psychology and well-being with very young kids, but then also to promote that camp and kind of show how it can be done. So check out all the links, make a donation. I would really appreciate it. And thanks for listening. As always, like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate it. This has been the Mental Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and always remember to forge your metal. Thanks for listening to the Mental Metal Podcast. Don't forget to tune in every week for more insights and strategies to help you forge mental toughness and resilience. This podcast is brought to you by Mental Metal Coaching, where we are driven by a passion for sharing knowledge and experience that empowers others to play, live, and grow with confidence. Our mission is to instill a resilient and spirited mindset in our clients, enabling them to confidently face adversity and actively seek new challenges for personal growth. At Mental Metal Coaching, we offer individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses. Whether you're an athlete, educator, or professional, we're here to help you unlock your potential and thrive in every area of life. Until next time, keep growing, stay resilient, and always remember to forge your metal.